Ladakh, India. Known as Little Tibet, Ladakh is a peaceful, dry region of the Himalayas. Usually. The cloudburst triggered a cascade of mudslides and flash floods that will never be forgotten in Ladakh. His Holiness, the Gyalwang Drukpa, one of the main spiritual leaders in the Himalayas, arrives in Ladakh shortly after the cloudburst to survey the damage and provide support.
The big drive, of course, has to be given by the government, but I can sort of support since we have a very big role in Ladakh also to play.
The impact of the rain alone caused skin to break and bruise.
She says she's always having a nightmare.
None of them have slept at night. They were also scared because of the lightning and thunder.
I see.
Her tongue had separated out. Stones and all. There were stones and mud deep inside her.
The Himalayas is the planet's highest mountain range, between the Indian and Eurasian plates. Coined the third pole of the Earth, it is home to the largest field of glaciers outside of the polar ice caps. As global temperatures rise, rapid glacial melting has thrown this ecosystem off balance, often turning bad weather into catastrophic weather. As these fatal conditions become more common, this area could soon become uninhabitable, wiping out thousands of years of culture as a result. The people of the Himalayas are battling for survival as their homeland becomes one of the world's most horrifying exhibitions of the climate chaos associated with global warming.
Of course, we have to be very friendly with the earth. We have to be very friendly with nature. If you abuse all these things, it's like a revenge. I don't know whether they are revenging or not, but it's naturally revenge. Revenge comes.
But what can the people of the Himalayas really do to confront a global crisis? Can small acts from a remote culture make a difference? Despite all odds, an effort is underway to answer this question. A deeply Buddhist region, spirituality and environmentalism have merged in the Yatra, a foot journey across the Himalayas, designed to spread a message so powerful it will spawn an unprecedented activist movement across the Himalayas. And suddenly, in the farthest corner of the earth, here lies one answer that may inspire all of us. A simple walk.
Many of the problems in this world are based on selfish and egoistic kind of fights. But the spirituality is the kindness, real kindness, not only just being kind, but real, true kindness to not only human being, but the nature. including the trees and rocks and mountains. That is the spirituality.
Your Holiness, we need a picture.
Oh, thank you.
One more right here.
Thank you very much on behalf of my organization, Live to Love, and also all the supporters in Himalaya regions and all over the world. Thank you.
Okay.
Very good.
Thank you.
Now, in this month, you're receiving the United Nations Millennium Development Honor. What does that mean to you personally and for your work?
I believe this is a kind of a recognition. Some of the places that I work for sort of cleaning environment and all these things are quite extensive. And for example, Padyatra, this is the kind of a Sanskrit language that means walking pilgrimage. Of course, it's not a religious pilgrimage. I was sort of like dragging 700 people of my students and walking across the Himalaya, the mountain, cleaning the environment. In one go, I can't clean everything in the Himalaya, but of course it's an example for the rest of the world.
His Holiness the Drukpa is the head of the Drukpa lineage, a 1,000-year-old Buddhist tradition known for active service, summed up in the motto, live to love.
In our language, Druk means dragon. We believe dragon is very much the symbol of love. This teaching of Drukpa, this particular lineage, is of course about promoting love.
The Yatra is an attempt to inspire a new generation of environmentalism in the name of both love and survival.
When His Holiness announced the Yatra, I thought to myself, I have got to go. I have got to get out of here, and I have got to go. I'm used to working at a big white shoe law firm. If I grew up and missed out on my Indiana Jones-esque adventure and trekking through the Himalayas, I would have been devastated. It took months, $1 gazillion, and several trips to REI figuring out what basic stuff was. I couldn't tell the difference between ski poles and trekking poles. I didn't understand what a water bladder was.
Did you think you could handle it?
Oh, I knew I couldn't handle it. I knew I couldn't handle it. That's why I had to do it. I went on this because I wanted to see climate change firsthand and to be able to do something about it.
The Yatra will span the Himalayas, including treks in Sikkim, parts of Nepal, and in India, Himachal Pradesh, and the Jammu Kashmir region of Ladakh. Totaling 440 miles, they will reach altitudes above 17,000 feet. The next 3 months will be fraught with both joy and peril as the trekkers enter the harshest terrain on the planet. Not all will make it to the end, each now vulnerable to injury, illness, and uncharted weather. Nonetheless, the resolve is strong. Along the way, the participants will collect trash, distribute reusable canvas bags, and educate locals on environmental responsibility, with an emphasis on the dangers of plastic. Because they are traveling on foot, they will reach thousands of people that don't have access to modern communications. It is an unorthodox way to spread a modern message. The trekkers occasionally pause to help insects off the footpath, so they may avoid unnecessary suffering. A respect for life, no matter how small, is a defining characteristic for this spiritual philosophy. It is the same philosophy of compassion that motivates this effort to protect the natural environment at large.
the Bon pilgrimage area. People love to be cremated wherever is a holy place, so that they believe that the spirit will be liberated. Even though we all love to live very happily, very successfully, very healthy and all these things, but as we see now, we can't really experience the true happiness nowadays. Health-wise, mind-wise, everything is going wrong in some way, somehow. So this is mainly because we have been so unfriendly with the natural environment. So I think very unkindly kind of way of living causes a lot of problems.
While modern products have now found distribution in these areas, they did not come with a sustainable means for disposal. Traditionally, locals compost or burn trash in a relatively low waste cycle that has sustained their way of life for generations. With the introduction of non-biodegradable materials such as plastic, suddenly, the waste is here to stay. Without proper education, it is a problem that may go unchecked until it's too late. Word of the Yatra has already begun to spread. Supporters and friends welcome the trekkers as they pass by, allowing His Holiness to connect with village leaders and pass forward the message of their journey. In the Himalayas, offering a white scarf called a kata is a gesture of gratitude and celebration. When reciprocated, it is known to bring great blessings and heralds a future of deepening heart connections.
The first few days of the Padyatra, brutal. Your body ached, you were nauseous, it felt like you had a bad case of the flu.
While scenic, the route is menacing. One misstep on the narrow paths could easily cost a life. Some paths are no wider than a person's foot.
I anticipated harsh terrain and high altitude. To prepare, I hired one of Los Angeles' best trainers. I had a stringent exercise regimen of metabolic intervals, kettlebell training. I was in good shape. The Westerners may have been very physically fit. We all trained. But when we got there, compared to the locals, we didn't even compare. We were pathetic. You'd wake up to a whistle. One of the nuns would whistle to wake everyone up. Then you get the second whistle, which means everyone has to be out of there. So we had to pack, dismantle the tent within 10 minutes. And then we would walk. Sometimes 16 to 18 hours.
No, don't.
The Drukpa nuns are extraordinarily tough, and they expect you to be tough too. They took my trekking poles because they thought it was completely unnecessary and that I needed to toughen up if I wanted to fit into the Himalayas. The average Drukpa nun is in her 20s, quick-witted, wakes up at 5 in the morning to practice kung fu.
Buddhist nunneries around the world are normally places of learning and quiet contemplation, but not this one. This is Amitabha Mountain, just outside Kathmandu, and home to the Buddhist Drukpa sect. This sect is trying to promote women, and it's doing it through kung fu. The nuns say it helps build strength and confidence. The leader of the sect says he wants to promote kung fu in nunneries throughout the Himalayas. And in doing so, women who are normally one step behind will start taking the lead.
There is a wait list to become a Drukpa nun. They perform rituals that are traditionally exclusively meant for monks, and they are taught modern life skills. They are fierce. They are fiercely spiritual and fiercely compassionate. There is nothing soft and squishy about them.
Illness and wounds from the day's trek are common, from cuts and scrapes to sprained ankles. Dry, cracked skin is especially common, though perhaps the least of worries compared to what lies ahead.
It's different than being a mountaineer because it isn't about conquering the mountain. By the time you reach the peak, there really isn't much time for you to swim in it because you just want to get down and you want to get to lower elevation as soon as possible. We realized that some people were better suited for trekking than others. So we camped for a day and we took a day off where Dr. Thierry, the head of the medical services, took the Westerners for a trial trek. It was like trying out for the track team.
Take it easy, have your water with you, and everything will be okay. If really you feel weak, best is to come and see me when you come back, okay? And to check if everybody is okay or not. You trust Ajay, he used to. He will be helped by this monk, and we see how it will work, okay?
If you were able to keep up, you were able to trek with everyone. If you struggled greatly, they recommended that you turn around and go back. And if you were in between where you were healthy enough to trek, but couldn't quite keep up, you were put into the Turtle Club. Turtle Club members had to wake up earlier in the morning. They had shorter lunches, and they oftentimes arrived at the campsite later. But they went in a separate group to ensure that they got there on time. If it was really, really bad, you got to ride a horse. But it was a mark of shame. I had to ride a horse one day, but I'm embarrassed still about it.
I think walking, walking down and stuff, it was fine. Just walking up was really difficult.
Yeah, but that's me too. Tukta saying a Kashida Kwe, Bangmate. Bangmate would have said that Bangmate in Yoman. So you
Once at camp, locals commonly arrive with offerings for His Holiness the Drukpa. Often this includes cultural performances unique to the locale. The dances sometimes speak of family relationships, hardships in the field, or life as a nomad. It is a living catalog of Himalayan history, rarely seen outside of local turf. Even in the most remote areas of the Himalayas, plastic waste can be found. While unsightly, this plastic is also toxic, especially once broken down and absorbed into water sources. Most people in the region drink directly from these water sources without filtration, ingesting growing amounts of toxic particles each day. Perhaps it is no coincidence that reports of illness in this area are at an all-time high. With over 15,000 glaciers, the Himalayas is the source point for many of the world's major rivers. It is the third largest supply of fresh water on the planet, serving an estimated 3 billion people, almost half the world's population. Unchecked pollution of these water sources could have a devastating effect. It is with the simple message to reduce and reuse that the trekkers push forward. The Drukpa trekkers make frequent stops at villages along the route, giving public talks on spirituality, heritage, and environmental compassion. For many people, this is their first exposure to environmental issues. Simple instructions are given on reducing plastic waste, using sustainable materials, and planting local trees, a campaign His Holiness has championed for the last 20 years. Village to village, the message is spread. While the majority of the world's pollution was not generated by these traditional cultures, they are encouraged to play a part in the world's future.
Real luxury is really back in the Himalaya region because they were so happy. Deeply, they are very contented. But nowadays, there's a risk. They have to really feel that they are somebody, and they are not only somebody, but they can contribute to the world.
Connecting with local people is a crucial part of the Yatra. Often days from the closest road, the trekkers arrived at remote villages rarely visited by outsiders.
Maybe it is educational or maybe medical aids or whatever it is needed. We have to be, and especially myself, have to see what is there, what is really the situation.
Many are moved to tears at the sight of His Holiness the Drukpa and the hundreds in his company. Perhaps it is easy to feel forgotten in the lost crevices of the Himalayas. Easy to forget that one has a role in the world at large.
His Holiness would do prayers in the area, which sometimes I would sneak off into my tent and just pass out. They would do these prayers every morning and every night. And I don't mean we get down on our hands and knees and do a quick 2-minute prayer. These are 2-3 hour ceremonies with drums. It's supposed to be a very rare and sacred ritual to bring peace, harmony. It's also just something very beautiful where people can come and commune and just share in some positive energy and some really beautiful music. Especially since some of these traditions were historically meant for men. So to have nuns perform was a great statement to these people that these nuns, these women, could do something that traditionally men did. The nuns were just so much faster than everyone else. I would put these nuns against any Shaolin monk any day of the week. I was starting to feel very strong, and the nuns kept yelling at me, and I had no idea why. I thought they were cheering me on because I was finally keeping pace. And it turns out that there was a stampede of donkeys, horses, and mules. I thought I could outrun the horses, and apparently I can't. So I had to dive into a sea buck thorn bush. And by sea buck thorn bush, I mean it was a thorny, thorny bush.
Yeah. Chamba. Chedo. Din duwe yo. Kanan duwe. Ah. Duksa kana.
Nan dina ye.
Dina.
Ye chamba ye.
Dina mo fukpa ye nare.
Arena.
Oh. Yeah. Gyalwang Drukpa ani jigiyendina. Yeah. Yeah.
A chance encounter with a cave hermitage is not unusual in this part of the world. Immersion in nature is a keystone for many spiritual practitioners, and the tradition of cave retreat has gone uninterrupted for thousands of years. In some cases, these caves have become powerful symbols of spiritual courage. Paying respect to the space is to receive the blessings and encouragements left by the ones who came before.
This is supposed to be men cave. Oh, it doesn't matter. That is also good. Starting from Kuluta up to Tibet, full of holy sacred places are there, So therefore it is very important to visit and also to pay homage.
Once I stayed up in the mountain here for a couple of months, about 6 months or something, for meditation. This place is Tara, the goddess of liberation, Tara. And also it's, of course, mainly it's a Guru Padmasambhava was blessed. Guru Rinpoche was sort of stepping in this area, and then all of a sudden lake came out. So this is known as Lake of Footstep.
Sacred footsteps are a common theme in the Himalayas. It is thought that even the footsteps of a truly kind being can transform the earth upon contact. His Eminence Drukpa Yongzin Rinpoche and Gyalwang Drukpa are two of several Rinpoches on the journey. The Drukpa Rinpoches are considered the teachers and future leaders of the lineage under the guidance of His Holiness.
National Geographic, Animal Planet.
Yeah, I like animals.
The great bodhisattvas, they always like animals. Yeah, because the animals are naturally kind of neglected. Some fishes are very harmful each other. They eat each other. It's not so good. I look forward to give them a teaching. Don't to eat. Don't eat, okay? Don't eat fish. Buddhist teaching.
There was one particular pass that was difficult for me. I can deal with the headaches and the nausea, but I couldn't keep conscious. I would pass out. That evening, I was put in an oxygen chamber. I've never felt so defeated in my life.
I thought she is well prepared, but then health gave up. Therefore, I asked her not to go, discontinue to go.
I had a chit-chat with His Holiness, who suggested that I go home. And I didn't want to travel all the way back to Los Angeles. It would be too big of a defeat for me to handle. So His Holiness suggested that I go to Hemis Monastery in Ladakh to recover before rejoining the group. Hemis is one of the oldest monasteries of the Drukpa lineage. There is a lot of folklore around the monastery. It is a grandiose complex of hidden rooms and sanctuaries. There are all sorts of myths and legendary stories about what goes on in Hemis. It was like living in a museum. The murals and artwork are hundreds and hundreds of years old with great historic and religious significance. There are stories of some of these paintings speaking and giving teachings. Hemis also hosts the Hemis Festival, which is the absolute most highly attended festival in the region. It is just packed. The monks prepare months and months for this. It felt like home. I've never lived with monks before, but it felt like home. I stayed with a monk called Gyalwang, and at night we would make dinner together from all the locally sourced vegetables, and I would teach him English and he would teach me Ladakhi.
Hemis Monastery is over 1,000 years old, and life has remained largely unchanged in that time. Until now. Due to the intensifying weather of the last 5 years, this landmark now faces the most severe degradation in its history. While preservation efforts are underway, the cause of the damage is still at large: a volatile ecosystem in crisis. Now halfway through the Yatra, the trekkers kick into a swift pace, though not for long. Ice is puzzling at this time of year. Hoping it is a singular incident, the trekkers cautiously tread through.
Physically, you're not exhausted.
It was nice.
Okay. Have a good time. He's doing this for others, so he's quite happy.
Ja, hallo, weg mit der Dumm. Cheese. Ja. Hi.
The group waits patiently for the weather to pass. Fortunately, this time, it is only a light snow.
It is believed that the Padyatra, if you walk in this kind of height and all these kind of difficulties, will give you more softened environment, softened attitude, softer attitude. So the soft attitude will become like a loving kindness, and then you will love trees more than usual, love nature more than usual. You know, you have to really be walking on the ground. So it's like communicating with them. That is very important, you know. You really feel that you are there. So then the spirituality naturally grow, and naturally you will be a great person. This is what I believe. Of course, it is a maybe long way to go.
I'm so tired now. Oh, I'm amazed you've come here this quickly.
Locals often join the group along the way, sometimes for days at a time, to show their support and take part in the historic journey.
Along the area where we were trekking, it's known to contain some very sacred holy art. It's particularly precious, and they have great religious significant meaning.
Ladakh lies along the ancient Silk Route and was once a vibrant hub of cultural exchange. The largely untouched art and frescoes date back to 1,000 years ago and have distinct Hellenistic, Byzantine, and Islamic influences, a point of fascination for many historians. Unfortunately, many of these treasures are in crucial need of restoration. This particular fresco is of Tsangpa Gyare, the founder of the Drukpa lineage from 1,000 years ago. Given the special connection villages have with the Drukpa, they often request His Holiness to examine these artifacts and survey their conditions.
Well, we came across this one village, and there's this odd-looking German dude whose story wasn't quite checking out. You know, the area has a lot of tomb raiders who come and take these national treasures, and they're technically Indian property, if not the property of the village or the region or the state. It turned out that he was trying to get His Holiness to sign off on one of his archaeological digs. So I asked for a proposal, and he looked at me and said, "I'd like to speak to a white man." I said, "Sure, good luck finding one." And he's like, "What are you, a lawyer?" And I'm like, "Yep." So he actually pushed me. We physically started fighting, I think because he could get whatever he wanted for so long, and I was the first person to say, "No, you have to go through the proper channels," that he just snapped and became very violent. Trekking poles are a great way of defending yourself. He was then kicked out of the state and is no longer allowed back.
Written here, but there's no bleeding, nothing.
Yeah.
Just
inside, maybe.
Just died. She just died.
It has a baby.
Now deeply isolated in the mountains, the trekkers move with unbroken focus with each step. Yet even still, an accident occurs. A pack of animals above the path dislodges a boulder, tumbling down into the line of trekkers. A nun quickly pushes her friend out of harm's way, and instead her own leg is crushed by the falling mass. With bones exposed, volunteers rush to her aid. Far from immediate help, they solar charge a satellite phone to call for an emergency rescue. The rest simply wait and pray. Only a few weeks away from the end, the remaining trekkers are heavy with fatigue. Even His Holiness the Drukpa is visibly worn, with critical pain in his knees and legs. It is midsummer. Snow on this pass is unimaginable at this time of year. At risk of becoming stranded by nightfall, the trekkers have no choice but to push through to the next campsite. Along the path are the remains of 2 previous trekkers, a foreboding signal to the dangers that lay ahead. It is as if the seasons had switched places overnight. Has the earth gone mad? The site is a haunting echo of the unexpected cloudburst that struck not too far from this very spot. When His Holiness the Drukpa visited Ladakh after the cloudburst, he was joined by Indian actor Amir Khan to survey the damage at Druk White Lotus School, a project of His Holiness and shoot location for Khan's film 3 Idiots.
Yeah, you can.
That means almost like a human.
Yeah, I can. Destroyed completely.
So all the computers and I think equipments are gone. It's the same in a civil hospital.
Yeah, in the afternoon they usually sleep.
Fortunately, the children were evacuated in time and no one at the school was injured. The surrounding areas were perhaps not so fortunate, with damage beyond repair.
The rock is the one that really hit on the house, and then the house is gone. And then many human beings are killed because of the rock. And the rocks, I think, will not be that active if you have these trees, you know. So of course, I mean, my way of promotion is, please, you have to understand these things, you know. Please plant trees everywhere. But then also, again, people don't listen. That's the problem. They don't think, you know, planting trees is that much of urgent. That's important. Now you can see now, you know.
The entourage spots a horse in the distance, trapped in the mud from the flash floods. Perhaps this is more than a small gesture. It is a retroactive wish to save the countless beings that drowned in the mud but a few days before.
We can't really afford to say, yes, it's unfortunate, let it be like that. No, I think we have to really give a very good education. It's a wrong way to call it natural disaster. It's a man-made disaster, actually. For example, not planting, deforesting, causing avalanches and the floods. We all know that. We just can't get ourselves together in practice. This is the really turning point.
His Holiness's visit to Ladakh, though a separate event from the Padyatra, reinforced many of the same concerns. For the people of the Himalayas, environmental preservation is a matter of self-preservation. Unable to navigate such severe snow, the horses collapse at the base of the pass. The loads they carried are stranded here along with them. Battling exhaustion, a handful of trekkers generously haul multiple bags over the pass, though only a fraction of the load will make it, leaving the campsite short of most belongings.
It was scary. Before I left America, I was told that there would be no snow at all. In fact, someone laughed at me and said there's no snow during that time of year. Even the locals were baffled. We literally ran out of food. It was negative 30 degrees, and our food and supplies were stuck below. We just had to sit it out.
To avoid the danger of hiking through the melting slush at daybreak, the trekkers resume their journey in the dead of night.
When I start feeling the pain of the trek, initially I get angry. You know, why are we going so fast? Why is this so high? Why did I sign up for this? Then you come to a moment where you're just too tired to feel angry. And then you get into a zone where it's one foot in front of the other, and you start feeling pretty good about yourself, and you could feel your confidence building by the second. I don't know if you stop noticing the nausea and the headaches or it goes away, but once you plow through, it's incredible. You start noticing how beautiful your environment is. You get over yourself and all your little aches and pains, and you start really enjoying how beautiful the area is.
Oh my God. It's so beautiful up here.
I got what I call the happies in the Himalayas. One of my favorite memories of my entire life was getting to a particular campsite with my sister, and we couldn't stop being happy about everything. In fact, she had stepped into a gigantic puddle of turd, and I just thought that was the sweetest thing on earth. Nothing could upset either of us. We got to a point where we appreciated the little moments in life, and it didn't take very much for us to laugh, and it didn't take very much for us to be happy. Everything's funnier out there. You know, you're grateful. You're grateful for water, you're grateful for food. You get to your campsite and you're grateful that you're alive or that you're not hurt that day. That sense of appreciation overwhelms you, and nothing really bothers you anymore.
With only a few days left of the Yatra, many gather to say their goodbyes to His Holiness before they hit the crowds ahead.
Everything is very extreme, you know. But I feel so good beside that. I feel very much merged with the nature. This is the way how you recycle your life. You are very much like a plastic. So plastic need to be recycled, you know. Really, this is eco-friendly way of living, you know. You have to recycle yourself, not only plastic, but you have to recycle yourself. And you have to appreciate, be kind, and be useful. This is what you have to take back from this Padyatra.
As a gesture of goodwill, the group hangs prayer flags, believed to spread well wishes through the force of wind, bringing great happiness to surrounding areas. As the size of the crowds grow, the trekkers realize that news of their adventures has spread faster than their footsteps. Once a sparse foot journey, the Padyatra has become the stuff of local legend, a sight to be witnessed with your own eyes.
The joyful effort is there. Joy of seeing people, joy of seeing this isolated area. As a leader, I have a strong desire to give them confidence on their own way of living. I want boys and girls to understand how valuable their life is. It is very much related to education. They have to know how valued the tree is. They have to know how valued the nature is, their traditional life.
Greeted by thousands to welcome them back, the Padyatra ends at Drukpa's own Hemis monastery.
Even though I am a Buddhist, spirituality is very important, not the religion. Spirituality is clean, kind, selfless mind, loving kindness. That is the spirituality.
Love needs to be recognized and activated. I don't know who doesn't need love in this world. Even the trees, the flowers, they need also loving kind.
Over 800 pounds of plastic was collected during the trek. Hundreds of villages were visited. Tens of thousands were educated on environmental preservation. But how do you quantify the impact of this Padyatra, this green odyssey through the back roads of the Himalayas? How do you measure the birth of a new social consciousness? Inspired by the Padyatra and the Drukpa trekkers, people of all ages arrive from around the Himalayas to participate in this homage to the environment, a mass tree planting in the heart of Ladakh. Since the Padyatra, several villages across Ladakh have banned all plastic products. Filtered water has become a new local business, allowing trekkers and passers-by to avoid buying bottles. Over 9,000 people are in attendance, and 50,300 trees are planted within 33 minutes, breaking a Guinness World Record. This joyful effort may not solve all the world's problems overnight, but as with the Padyatra, perhaps it is a matter of one small step in front of the other.
la la